Following Neil Wallace's article in Farmers Weekly last week, the government appears to have underestimated the cost of fencing waterways to exclude farm livestock. Are we surprised? But this is by about 50%. And there is also the question of if there will even be enough fencing contractors out there for this mammoth task. Fencing Contractors New Zealand says figures are quoted by the Ministry for the Environment as part of the essential freshwater policy are not realistic. In a document released last month, it estimates that 32,000 kilometres of waterways will have to be fenced under the new stock exclusion rules at an estimated cost of $773 million. I know we have a global audience here on Cirrus Country. I want to let you know that that is on top of nearly all of our waterways on farms in this country already being fenced. This is a movement in terms of the rules of how far off the edge of the waterways that is. And joining us now is Shane Beets, board member for Fencing Contractors Association. Evening, Shane. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Now, taking that into account, we do have to acknowledge we do have a global audience here and things are done differently in all parts of the country. Can you paint the picture by the numbers for us on how far off the money our government actually were when they came out with this idea of a 1 metre rule as opposed to a 5 metre rule?
Hi, how are you, Sarah? Lovely to be on the show tonight. Yeah, look, there's a lot of variance between regions, and they've stated figures like, for example, roughly $7 a metre for electric fencing, around about $12 for sheep fencing, and $20 for deer fencing. Look, in today's numbers, that's roughly half, but you've got to realise that there's quite a lot of variation between districts, between regions, and also even within contractors. Contour can make a huge difference in price, the difficulty of getting to jobs, etc. So it's not a standard figure, but they definitely are off the mark substantially.
Okay, one thing this government, past coalition government, were not shiny at was consultation. Did they come to you first?
No, look, FCAN's fencing contractors haven't heard a single thing through it. I know that Federated Farmers did a bit of work, but again, I understand a lot of that was shut out. So it's quite disappointing, especially when the Ministry for the Environment has come up and publicly stated figures of what they would expect it would cost and how much actual meterage is required to be done. Now, interestingly speaking, there's been several big offences that have been approached by regional and district councils for pricing as well. And the feedback has been the councils are quite surprised, in fact, even a little distraught to realise that they're halfway off the mark as well. So where they're getting this pricing from is pie in the sky stuff. It's probably 15 to 20 years ago that they've got these prices.
I just had a thought, Shane, because, you know, it's common knowledge that you go 50-50 with the neighbour. A lot of these waterways, the neighbour's the Crown.
Well, absolutely. I mean, we've got dairy clients, for example, that need some serious railway fencing done, and this is fencing that's been in place for 60, 70, 80 years, and it's all falling over. And even my conversations with some of my clients, they've pretty much stated that it's on them, even though their neighbour is told, for example. And it's a sad situation because in the private sector, you're right, standard practice is the neighbour would pay 50% of the cost.
Okay, we're going to get to labour, but what about materials? How are we placed to even take on such a challenge?
Well, look, I'm not sure about that really. A lot of our trees get exported to China, which creates big problems. We've had it quite regularly in the last 8 to 10 years that I've been commercial fencing, where there will be periods that it's so difficult to get posts. The suppliers will be looking after us fencers to keep us in work, and none of the farmers can get materials. Look, I can't see how they will solve that. Realistically, there's only so many people that are producing posts in this country, and I can't really see how they're going to produce enough for it in such a short period of time. just remember also, all of us fencers have our standard work to do. For example, in our own business, we concentrate on lifestyle and subdivision with a little bit of farm work. We also have a little bit of waterway stuff to do, but up in our area, we've got the whole Kuiper catchment. There's not a lot of fences up here. It's a huge, huge project. So on top of our existing workload, I'm not too sure how we're going to be able to nail that sort of distance in the time period that you're talking about.
What about labour shortage and actually recruiting people into the industry? How big a gap is this, and what is the Fencing Contractors of New Zealand doing to attract people into this role?
Well, look, it's like every trade in New Zealand, and note I call fencing trade because it really is. I mean, we're constructing something. So it's not really just a rural service anymore. It's quite specialised. There's a lot of standards to adhere to, and being on the board is quite good because most of our board's new. We're very, very excited about pushing it along and having an industry that the whole rural community can be proud of. Fencers that are producing good quality work time and time again. We, like all other trades, are very, very short of staff. It's quite difficult to get young ones to come through. The boards over the last few years has been working really hard, and they've got a level 3 qualification that has been going now 3 years, and there's a level 4 in the pipeline today, which, talking to North Tech who are running it, they're expecting it to be up and going late next year sometime, which is really, really good for us. So the next thing is to encourage existing fencers to get on board. And also, we as an industry, we really, really need to get out there and try and get some young people involved. It might be a hard industry. There's a lot of heavy work, but the rewards are great. It's great being outside. You're out there doing your thing, and at the end of the day, you can actually see what you've achieved.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's great.
You think of how many people pay for gym memberships. They wouldn't need to if they certainly were working in the fencing industry. Shane, sorry, I just do want to clarify and jump back. I was thinking whilst you were talking there about China, how's the effect of the steel industry and imports of materials over this COVID period been? Because I know there was a lot of farmers that didn't stockpile flour. It was fencing equipment.
Yeah, look, the wire and staples and that sort of, a lot of that's made in New Zealand, Pacific Steel, and it's good quality, and also a lot's made in Australia. So China really isn't affecting us from the steel point of view. In fact, from our experience and experience talking to other fencers, if you're going to put Chinese wire up, you really would have to question why you would do that. It may be cheaper, but when you're looking at quality, and we're trying to push a standard here in the industry, supporting New Zealand-made products and even the quality stuff from Australia, it makes sense to use those products. And from what I understand, there is no real shortage in that.
Okay, so where to from here? We have announcements of Minister David Parker back in the hot seat of Minister for the Environment. Fencing Contractors of New Zealand able to keep that door open to say how unrealistic this is over a period of time, or do you believe that the ink is dried?
Well, look, at the end of the day, I think there's Labor's in, and great on them for being in, but I think they've got an agenda in place. They want to clean up the waterways in New Zealand, and rightly so. I do think the time frame's quite short. Whether it's achievable or not, I'm really not sure. But where we stand with our industry at the moment, I really don't believe that we've got the people to be able to get it done. Farmers, realistically, yes, they can do short amounts themselves, but I really can't see the big farms that have got tens, 20s, even hundreds of kilometres to do. They won't be able to do that themselves along with their normal farm work that they have to do.
Shane, before you go, we're talking about Christmas or the Melbourne Cup. You can choose which one.
Well, look, I watch with interest on the Melbourne Cup, but I've never really followed the horses. I can comment on both, so that's my comment on the Melbourne Cup.
No hot tips from Shane?
No. and I don't bet on it either. So as far as Christmas goes, look, I mean, I've got a grown-up family, and I acted like the Grinch, even though secretly deep down we quite enjoy it. So this year it's Christmas at home, a small family thing, and we won't be hitting the roads. North of Auckland's a nightmare that time of the year. So, yeah.
Oh, I can totally imagine. A great place to stay. That's Shane Beets here from the Fencing Contractors of New Zealand.
This is Sarah's Country.